What do CNN, the Nashville Network, Omni Magazine, and Rolling Stone have in common with hundreds of other publications, radio, and TV programs across the country? The Yamaha QY10. They and many musicians have found the Yamaha QY10 to be one of the most amazing and innovative musical instruments to hit the stores in years. As a matter of fact, both Popular Science Magazine and Discover Magazine have nominated the QY10 as one of the most innovative products of the year. The purpose of this video is twofold. First, an overview and brief look into the primary uses of the QY10. Secondly, a more in-depth and functional approach into this amazing technological package. As we listen to more of the QY10's music, let's take a look at the control panel. The liquid crystal display screen. The transpose track selector key. The enter and shift keys. The sequencer keys. The menu key and function keys. The left-right cursor keys. The song, pattern, and exit keys. And the plus, minus, no, yes keys. The numeric keypad and chord entry keys. And the micro keypad, which corresponds to a 1-octave span of a conventional keyboard. The QY10 features 8 song memory, each with 8 sequencer tracks, 4 for melody and 4 for backing tracks, 30 different PCM voices, 26 percussion instruments, 28-note polyphony, has real-time and step-right programming capability, a micro keyboard for entering notes and chords, 76 preset patterns, 24 user pattern locations, and the QY10 has MIDI compatibility and many versatile editing functions. Your guide for this tour of the QY10 is our product marketing specialist, Mr. Avery Burdett. Avery spends most of his time teaching and training people across the country to use today's technology to make music. Involved with the QY10 since its introduction, Avery knows the QY10 inside and out and would like to share some of his knowledge with you. So, let's get started.
With over 300 individual pieces of music representing over 70 styles, the first thing we're going to explore is the pattern mode of the QY10. Pattern numbers 24 through 99 are preset patterns and have been pre-programmed to present or represent over 70 styles of popular music, ranging from dance, disco, jazz, Latin and reggae, 50s, 60s, 70s rock and roll, boogies, shuffles, waltzes, ballads, just to name a few. You may want to think of the QY10 as your backup band with 4 players. The rhythm track is your drummer, the bass track, the bass player, and the chord 1 and chord 2 tracks, the instruments that fill out the pattern as required by a particular style. These patterns are labeled with an abbreviation for the style, a number representing the length in measures, and a name. For example, pattern number 28 is a funk pattern, as represented by the first 2 letters, is 4 measures long, and is named New York Pop. Let's look into the New York Pop pattern and see what's happening. By pressing the track button, we get the track display screen. And then by pressing the C1, C2, and bass buttons, we mute those tracks and now can listen only to the drum track or the rhythm track. Now the drummer is playing. We can press the bass button and unmute its track to introduce the bass player playing his New York bass line. Now introduce the guitar player on track C2. And lastly, on track C1, our keyboard player. Now you know that a pattern is actually 4 tracks of music, kind of like 4 musicians in your band, or 3 musicians and a drummer. If you consider that there are 76 patterns in the QY10 and that any bass line can be played with any rhythm track as well as mixing and matching chord tracks, you may get an idea that this band knows a lot of music already. They just need to be told what to play. Let's go back to the pattern New York Pop. If you examine the screen closely, you will notice an arrow on the far right side. Whenever you see an arrow, it indicates that there is an additional display screen with more information in that direction. Pressing the cursor key in the direction of the arrow takes us to this screen. This screen is where we change the chord, root and type, and the tempo of the pattern. By using the micro keyboard, we can select new chord roots and enter them manually. A chord progression. F, press enter. C, press enter. Press play and listen as the QY10 changes the roots of the chords in the pattern. F, G and enter, C. Now, we're good up to this point, but the root is not the whole story. Programmed into the QY10 are 20 of the most often used chord types in popular music. These chord types, major, minor, 6th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th, diminished, augmented, and even more, give you the capability of creating or recreating virtually any chord progression that might be musically useful. As you see, by using the micro keyboard and the chord type keypad, you can tell the QY10 to play almost any chord progression. When you change chords manually, it is most musically effective when the new change is entered on the beat. And with a little practice, you can have some fun entering a complex chord progression like this. Using pattern 58, a typical chord progression might sound like this. These are only a few examples of the many things you can do with the preset patterns in the QY10. In just a few moments, we'll get to the song mode and how you can actually teach the QY10 to do all of this by itself. Since there are too many patterns to mention individually, I'm going to ask the control room to list the patterns on your TV screen while we listen to one of the preset demos that you'll get in your QY10. Remember, with 76 different patterns representing a vast array of different musical styles, the QY10 is ready to make music when you are, anywhere, anytime. As you've seen, there's a lot of music in the QY10 already, and playing it manually can be fun. But now we're going to see how easy it is to teach the QY10 a song. You can consider the individual pattern tracks your backing band, the rhythm track your drummer, the bass track, of course, would be your bass player, and then there are two other guys or girls in your band that play various instruments on tracks C1 and C2, usually determined by the style of the pattern that you're dealing with. There is one other person in your band whose initials are BK. This stands for backing track. This track can be considered your conductor or arranger, for without it, no one in your band is going to have any idea what to play. This is where chord progressions are entered, patterns are called, alternate bass notes inserted, and a couple of other things that we'll get to later. First, select the song mode with the song button. Since song 1 is the default location, let's use this position to create our song. Press the Record Ready button. When you do this, the cursor is under the far right of the screen, the track select position. Using the plus or minus keys, select the BK track between tracks 4 and C1. Press play. Now the QY10 is ready to learn the chords in your song, and this display is telling you in which measure, on what beat, and what division of the beat you are. We're going to teach the QY10 a typical 1-6-2-5 chord progression common to many songs. We do this by selecting the note C on the micro keyboard and then pressing Enter. You will hear a click or a rim shot confirming the chord entry. We now have two options of moving to the next location for the next chord, the A minor. With the cursor under the beat location, you can increment through the beats, through the remaining beats of the measure to the next measure by simply pressing the yes button, or go immediately to the top of the next measure with the double arrow key. Let's enter the A minor chord here by pressing A on the micro keyboard and the number 4 minor type, chord type key, and enter. Advance to the next bar and choose D minor 7. D minor 7. Now move to the 4th bar for the 5 chord. Now, we can repeat this procedure for the duration of a typical song, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I think you'll be able to get the idea from this 4-bar chord progression. With this chord progression in place, let's return to the top of the song by pressing the back to the top button. You will notice a diamond shape signifying the presence of a chord. By pressing the menu key, we can select the other options for the BK track. The default setting, CHO, is an abbreviation for chord, and we just entered our chord progression using this option. If the song contained a chord with an alternate bass note, one other than the root, the second option, BAS, would be chosen and allows us to put the bass offset on the chord. PAT is the option we are interested in right now, and let's use this option to select or call a pattern for our song. Select the PAT option and select pattern number 56. 5, 6, and enter. Next, press stop. Now press play and listen to the 3 musicians and the drummer play this song. Now let's do something fun and maybe a little tricky for the uninitiated. By going into the edit mode of this BK track, we can find the pattern we are using and change it to a pattern that is completely different, like number 72. So press the menu key, select Edit, and using the double arrow key, we can locate the pattern we are using. Now change the pattern number to 72. Hit Enter, Exit, Song, and Play. Now we're rocking. Repeat this procedure as many times as you like to hear the different patterns with this chord progression. If you haven't figured out by now, this T stands for tempo, and we can adjust the tempo of the song from 30 to 250 beats per minute. If you like, you can adjust this by moving the cursor under the numbers and using the plus or minus key to speed up or slow down your song. But for now, let's just leave it at the default of 120 beats per minute. Now that our backup band knows the song, we can add additional parts, melody for example, to complete the arrangement. For this, we use tracks 1 through 4, which are fully implemented linear sequencer tracks that can record note information from either the micro keyboard or velocity, pitch bend, and note information from any MIDI keyboard. The QY10 even features a way to record chords from the micro keyboard. Using this feature, the QY10 allows you to play and record a different inversion of each chord in the song by simply pressing a single key. Additional tracks and other features too numerous to mention here give you everything you need to create complete musical arrangements for virtually any popular music situation, anywhere, anytime.
Song mode features include quantize, which is used to correct your timing; transpose, which changes the key of any of the 4 linear tracks in half-step increments; mix tracks, which combines data from any 2 tracks onto 1; combine tracks, which allows you to combine the timing of one track with the note data of another; and you can create, copy, insert, delete, and erase measures. The QY10 has 26 percussion voices and 30 instrumental voices, each with its own setting for volume, pitch bend, and pan. With the utility mode, the QY10 has MIDI features which include sync, where you can synchronize the QY10 to external sequencers; MIDI control, which transmits start and stop commands from the QY10; bulk dump, where you can save the entire contents of the QY10 to an external storage device; the metronome controls, and storing for saving your changes.
Welcome back. So far, we have covered the preset patterns and the song mode of the QY10, and hopefully you realize just how much music is already in this amazing music machine. But what if your music requires something really unique and original? The QY10 will let you record your own original patterns for virtually any musical situation. The QY10 already knows all the rules of music theory, voice leading, and harmony. We're going to record a pattern that will take advantage of this unique talent. Now, as with writing any original musical composition, this section can get a bit involved. But as I put this pattern together, one track at a time, you will begin to understand just how easy it really is. Select pattern mode, pattern number 00, and enter. Now let's record a rhythm track. Press the record ready and call up the rhythm track on the right-hand side of the screen. Remember the right-hand arrow? This will take us to the page where we can set the tempo, the time signature, and the number of measures. For this example, we'll use 1 measure of 4/4 at a tempo of 120. Press play. There's a 2-bar count off, and then we can record our rhythm track. Now let's quantize that. Job number 1, quantize parts. Enter, yes. We can also quantize to an eighth note triplet, which will give us a shuffle feel. Now let's record a bass line. Pay close attention. Okay, now let's listen to what I recorded. It's different. Why? Because the pattern is in the key of C major. And the QY10 knows there are no B flats in the key of C major. As soon as I tell the pattern to be in the key of C7 or any other chord that contains a flatted seventh, our bass line will play back just as I recorded it. This unique ability is one of the most powerful aspects of the QY10 and should be taken advantage of in order to realize the full potential of the QY10. For example, my B flat becomes an A when I select the C6 chord. Or my G is flatted or sharp as for a diminished or an augmented chord as required, just as any good bass player would do. Now on the C2 track or the C1 track, I can add other instruments. In this case, on C1, I'll record an electric piano playing a C7 chord. We have provided you with every conceivable option needed for the composition of original music and have given you accesses to all of them. However, there are two features that have yet to be implemented, but we believe that you have the taste and talent already. Welcome to part 2. The QY10 is designed to allow you to make your music when you want to, where you want, anywhere, anytime. In order to put this much power into a package this small requires that you take a clear and basic approach to what you do. Part 2 of this videotape can be considered a reference section. It is here we will go over the basic modes and functions of the QY10 step by step, showing you along the way how to get the most music out of the QY10. The pattern mode is one of the most unique and powerful aspects of the QY10, and when properly utilized is amazingly versatile. In this section, we will show you how to create your own pattern and provide you with some of the theory behind the QY10's amazing musical talent. What is a QY10 pattern? You may be familiar with patterns in other machines and devices, but the QY10 patterns are unique. Each pattern is between 1 and 8 bars in length and consists of 4 tracks. They are the C1 or chord 1 track, the C2 or chord 2 track, the BS or bass track, and finally the RT or rhythm track. The RT or rhythm track operates just like most drum machines and provides the percussion and drum parts for our pattern. The BS or bass track is normally used to provide a bass line for the pattern, but is not limited to this function alone. The C1 and C2 tracks are intended to fill out the pattern with instrumental accompaniment parts, but again, these tracks are not limited to this function only. There are 2 modes we use to record data into the QY10, each appropriate for different musical situations. The first mode is the step record. Using this mode, we can enter note data in a step fashion, one at a time, with all the musical options that you might expect. These include note values from whole notes to 32nd note triplets, ties, rests, dynamics, articulations, and chord entry, one note at a time, of course. The second mode is the overdub mode. Because we are recording a pattern of a predetermined length, the pattern will loop or play continuously, allowing us to overdub a new part in real time each time the pattern loops. Let's record our rhythm track, a drum part, using the overdub mode. Press the Record Ready button, making sure that RT is to the very right of the LCD screen. I could change the tempo and time signature by cursoring right, where I also have the option of choosing between 1 and 8 measures for the length of my pattern. Let's leave the default values as they are for now. If the rhythm track is not recorded with perfect timing, no problem. The QY10 has the features you would expect from a powerful MIDI sequencer. One of those features is the ability to quantize or adjust the timing of note events. You may have noticed that the timing of the hi-hat parts were uneven when I recorded them. So I will call from the menu page, job number 1, quantize parts. Menu, job 1. Pressing enter, I see the screen QNT, which stands for quantize, with the pattern number and the track and the default quantize value, a 16th note. I can, of course, quantize to any of the available values from a quarter note to a 32nd note triplet. But for our drum track, I will choose the default 16th note quantize value. By pressing enter and answering yes to the sure prompt, the QY10 has corrected my timing. With this part in place, I can leave it like it is or overdub more percussion instruments as I choose. And I might choose to add just a little cowbell. In case I record something by mistake, by holding the Shift key and pressing the offending instrument button, the instrument is erased. Now we'll consider our rhythm track complete, and next we'll record our bass line. Press Record Ready and select the bass track. Now press Menu and the F1 step. We're going to step in our bass part. You can test your sound on the keyboard now, making sure you have the proper octave and the correct sound. If not, press Stop, Menu, and the voice, F3. The bass track will automatically appear with the voice number and the name of the currently assigned voice. To change this assignment, use your plus and minus keys to scroll to the voice you want. Now that we have the right sound, go back to the pattern mode, press Record Ready, and play. This display tells us that we are on the first bar, the first beat, clock 00. The S in the center of the display denotes that we are in the step mode, and the quarter note next to it is the default step record value. For this example, we will record 2 eighth notes on the first beat, each note a C2. By pressing the number 3 key on the numeric keypad, the eighth note value is selected and then the note is played on the micro keyboard. If the correct octave does not appear, the octave up and down keys will transpose the octave or a repeated note on the keyboard will transpose up octave on each press. With the correct note and octave selected, by pressing the Enter key, the note will be recorded. This can be repeated for the next eighth note. On the second beat of the measure, a C3 eighth note will be stepped in, and the second half of the second beat, a B flat 2, is recorded. Now, just give me a second and let me finish this part. With this part recorded on the bass track, now let's listen to that back. Those of you who are paying attention have just discovered one of the most incredible aspects of the QY10. In order for patterns in the QY10 to play all of the 20 chord types, the QY10 must alter the notes in the chord 1, chord 2, and bass tracks. Basic music theory tells us that the 20 chord types require different thirds, fifths, and sevenths. The pattern must be written in a way that provides the proper source notes that the QY10 can then alter or transpose. These source notes, also known as active notes, are the major third, the perfect fifth, and the flatted sevenths of a C major scale. The bass track that we have just written contains a B flat, and as we listened back, we heard no B flats and will not hear one until we choose a chord type for the pattern that contains a B flat. These include any sevenths, ninths, minor sevenths, and several others. The following chart clearly displays what happens to bass lines containing thirds, fifths, and flat sevenths for each of the 20 chord types. The same type of theory applies when writing a chord 1 or chord 2 track. If you provide those tracks with a C7 chord structure, the QY10 can move the third E natural, fifth G natural, and flatted seventh B flat to the appropriate note for each of the 20 available chord types. You can think of this as intelligent reharmonizing, if you like. This chart shows how each active note is altered for each chord type. Each note of the C7 chord is transposed to the appropriate note for the new chord type selected. For example, the third E is raised a half step to F, and the seventh B flat a whole step to the root C. The fifth is unchanged, thus creating a C sus4 chord. The ability for the QY10 to transpose the individual notes of a C7 source chord and create the 20 different chord types makes the QY10 the versatile and powerful instrument that it is. Now that we have covered the pattern mode, it's time to move to the song mode. In the song mode, we select a time signature, enter chord progressions, choose patterns which provide the basic rhythm section tracks, and embellish our arrangement on sequencer tracks 1 through 4. Previously, we referred to the BK track in a song as our arranger. Going a bit further, we can consider the BK track to be our chord chart, the bass and rhythm arrangements. The BK track has these three options. The CHO are chord entry, the BAS are bass offset, and the PAT are pattern call. The CHO, our chord entry option, provides the ability to place a chord on the proper beat or division of the beat for each measure of the song. For example, record BK, start. Measure 1, beat 1, clock 00, C major 7. The bass or bass offset function allows us to specify a bass note other than the root of the chord. This makes it possible to enter even more complex chord combinations above and beyond the 20 root positions available. Record BK, menu, bass, C major 7 over G. The PAT, or pattern call option, tells all 4 tracks of a particular pattern to play in the song for as long as there are measures or until another pattern is called. For example, while in the record mode on the BK track, press the menu and the pattern option. You can now enter any pattern in the machine. By selecting the time signature and entering chord, bass, and pattern data on the BK track, the basic structure, style, and arrangement of the song is complete. Tracks 1 through 4 can be recorded with additional parts to add additional harmonic and melodic elements to the song arrangement. This kind of flexibility and music sequencing power make the QY10 a unique and very powerful composing tool. Let's create a song. We're going to do a standard 12-bar blues progression and then add a simple blues line melody from the micro keyboard as if we were on a plane and had no option for using an external controller. First thing we're going to do is enter the record ready mode and choose the BK track. And if you don't know by now, the BK track is between the track number 4 and track C1 and is accessed using the plus or minus keys from the record ready mode. With BK to the far right of the display, press the Start button, and we start entering our 12-bar blues progression. It's important to realize at this point that a chord progression can be entered in any key and then transposed to any other key later. So for the purposes of this example, we'll choose the key of C. A simple 12-bar chord progression is like this. C7, 1 bar. F7 for 1 bar. C7 for 2 bars. F7 for 2 bars. C7 for 2 bars. G7 for 1 bar. F7 for 1 bar. C7 for 1 bar, and G7 for 1 bar. We've just entered a 12-bar 1-4-5 blues progression, but it would have been just as easy to take the chords and their placement from any piece of sheet music. A tip to remember is to always number the measures on the sheet music. This way you always know where you are in the song. With the harmonic chord progression complete, we can now choose from any of the 76 preset backing patterns or any pattern that we have recorded into the 24 user locations to provide the rhythm, the bass, and chordal accompaniment tracks for our blues progression. Now at this point, it may be useful to have more than just 12 bars in our song. So using the menu job option number 4, copy measures, we can enter and copy the BK track from measure 1 to measure 12 to measure 13 3 times. Now we have our blues progression in our song, 4 complete 12-bar repetitions. Now, in order to break up the patterns and add some variety to the QY10, we can also use the menu, edit, menu, insert, track, and shift and rhythm. This is called the CBR insert mode. This gives us the ability to go get any one of the 4 pattern tracks from any of the 76 available patterns and insert them in any bar in our song. So for this example, we will choose pattern number 94 to be entered into measure number 12 of our 12-bar blues. Let's scroll up to measure 12 or measure 10 and listen to the drum break. There are other options that are available for us to use in the song mode, such as creating, deleting, and inserting measures, which, by the way, is how we can put multiple time signatures into a song. But this videotape is not long enough to cover all the options. However, they are listed completely in the owner's manual. Next, we will record a melody line using one of the 4 recording modes available for tracks 1 through 4. Pressing record ready and choosing track 1, press the menu button, and the 4 options will be displayed in the LCD window. They are step recording, which we've covered, a real-time recording mode replace, which replaces any previous data on the track, overdub, which allows you to add new data to existing data in real time on a track, and last, the chord record mode, which we'll get to in a moment. So we'll add a simple melody to our 12-bar blues. But the melody I want to use has a pickup note on beat 4. How can I make that happen? Like this. Menu, job number 3, create measures. Enter, and from measure 1, create 2 4/4 measures. Now, we'll go back to the song, menu, and edit. And on the backing track, edit mode, we'll insert a pattern. 0, 0, the count off. Now, it's important to realize you are watching a videotape, and that section can be reviewed over and over until you understand the procedures that were used. And now that our count off is in the song, our melody can be recorded on track 1. Record ready, select track 1. Menu, real-time record, replace, and start. 2 bars, then the 2-bar count off. Now, with our melody in place, let's add some horn stabs. This is how we use the chord record mode. Again, our horns are on track 4, so select track 4, menu, and chord record. So now I can add a different inversion of each chord in the 12-bar blues every time I play a white note on the micro keyboard. QY10 transmits in the song mode tracks 1 through 4 and C1 through rhythm on MIDI channels 1 through 8 respectively. Track mutes also mute MIDI information, and if the desired track is meant to play an external tone generator only, voice number 32 off can be assigned to that track. Any MIDI keyboard can be used to record any track on the QY10. Polyphonic note data, velocity, pitch bend are received and recorded as with any MIDI sequencer. This can be accomplished without regard for transmit channel because the QY10 automatically routes the incoming MIDI data to the chosen record track. In the first portion of this video, I demonstrated an elaborate chord progression entered manually using the pattern mode. This impromptu arrangement could be recorded into any sequencer that can record on 4 tracks at once to become an arrangement for any musical purpose. A general rule of thumb to use when recording from one sequencer to another is to allow the target sequencer, the one that is recording the data, to be the master clock. Simply put, you should never ask any sequencer to record and synchronize itself to an external clock simultaneously. If this simple rule is followed, timing errors will be kept to an absolute minimum, true with any MIDI system, whether the QY10 is involved or not. The QY10 has the capability of transmitting the contents of its memory, both song and pattern, to external MIDI data filing systems. It does so in 2 formats. The first being the QY format, which gives you the option of transmitting individual songs 1 through 8, or all the songs in all user patterns. A combination of these options can be used to provide easy access to any or all QY10 compositions. The second option allows the transfer of tracks 1 through 4 directly to any Yamaha sequencer supporting the NSQ format. This includes the SY series and QX series and others, but please consult the owner's manual of the target sequencer. It almost goes without saying that everyone at Yamaha is very excited about what the QY10 has to offer. Almost everyone has something musical to gain from the QY10. Remember, sections of this video can be reviewed as often as needed, and we would like to thank you for your time and attention.